Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about how Giganotosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion used expert fighting tactics to defeat the original Jurassic Park T-Rex. Now, when we think about the original Jurassic Park T-Rex that also appears in Jurassic World, the creature hasn't really had many apex predators to come up against. Think, in 1993, the largest dinosaurs it had to fight against were the velociraptors, and as we can see, it won quite clearly. Then the Lost World was completely different. We had two different tyrannosaurs that were the main apex predators in that film, and the chances are they were on a different part of the island from the Spinosaur. In Jurassic Park 3, the Spinosaurus then becomes the most dominant one in that film. We're not quite sure what T-Rex this is, but we can assume maybe it could be the baby, or it could just be another Tyrannosaur, a smaller version that is living in that island around that time. Now, skip forward 14 years to Jurassic World. Now, the original T-Rex is back. She is a lot older. She's almost 30 years older, in fact, and looks a lot weaker. Now, she's not in her prime. But when the Indominus Rex escapes and causes havoc and breaks into Main Street right towards the end of the film, we get to a point where one gun from Chris Pratt isn't going to be enough to take down this Indominus Rex. So they open up Paddock 9 and release the T-Rex. And this is the T-Rex's first major battle that she's ever had to have in 30 years. Even in Fallen Kingdom, a year later, the biggest apex predator on the island after the T-Rex was the Carnotaurus. And let's be honest, that was no match for the T-Rex. So she's quite an inexperienced fighter when you think about it. Now, let's look at the Giganotosaurus from Jurassic World Dominion. They released it out into Biosyn Valley with two other Tyrannosaurs, the Buck and Doe from the Lost World, which we see at the end making a little small cameo in the epilogue of the movie. And also, you think about it, it's actually got to deal with some other large creatures itself. He's got all the herbivores to deal with in there, and also the Therizinosaurus, which is very territorial. So I can imagine the Giganotosaurus has had some scraps with either the buck, the doe, or even the Therizinosaurus over certain areas. So that would also explain the fight that we see at the end of the film. So if you take this stuff into consideration, you can probably see why the Giganotosaurus is used to having some battles for territory, unlike our famous fan favourite T-Rex. So here we are, we're going to go into some details on these tactics that the Giganotosaurus uses to his advantage. So you've got the spikes on the back of its head. When the T-Rex lunges at the Giganotosaurus, it lowers its head, so the first thing that it attacks and bites on is the spines on the top of its head and on the top of its back. It then uses its body weight to push back against the T-Rex. So the T-Rex is lifted up off of its balance and therefore allows the Giganotosaurus to take a more stable stance in this situation. Now, according to the Dino Tracker website, which is the Canon viral marketing, the Giganotosaurus slightly outweighs the T-Rex in this situation, so it'd be a lot harder for the T-Rex to knock the Giganotosaurus off balance, and it'd have to find a different way of doing it. Now, notice in this fight that the T-Rex never ever gets a clean bite at the Giganotosaurus's neck. The footwork of the Giganotosaurus doesn't allow the T-Rex to get a clean bite. And if you go back to the fight in Jurassic World Dominion over the deer carcass, the T-Rex roars at the Giganotosaurus and it automatically lowers its head to protect its neck. It then drives forward towards the T-Rex, lifting it up. The spikes on top of the head push in towards the T-Rex, which lifts the T-Rex up, so when it comes back down, it's a little bit more off balance, which allows the Giganotosaurus to then bite the snout of the T-Rex, give it a few tears to basically warn it off that this is my prey. Now, in this case, this is a brilliant display of dominance in the Jurassic World Dominion film. It's actually more so the most I think, in my opinion, it's probably the most realistic fight that we've had. It's not necessarily fighting to kill the other one. It's just like, this is my territory as well as yours. This is my prize. If you want to get it, you're going to have to come through me to get it. And the T-Rex, being 30 years old, is probably just thinking, what's the point? In her prime, she might have fought for this prize a little bit more, but at her age, she's probably just quite happy to go and find something else to eat. Then the Giga uses this same tactic again in the later fight towards the end of the film. The T-Rex tries to lunge and get some revenge from earlier, and the Giganotosaurus's footwork doesn't allow the T-Rex to go and bite near the vital places. As you can see, it moves around. The Giganotosaurus then knocks the T-Rex off of balance. It pulls its tail, so it pulls the T-Rex backwards. The Giganotosaurus then bites the T-Rex on its thigh and pushes it over towards the building and knocks it down. And once it gets back up, it's obviously got a bit of a bite wound on its legs, so it's a bit limpy. It then shoves it to the ground and puts its foot on top of the T-Rex's head. I think the phrase "kicking it while it's down" comes to mind. The Giganotosaurus is pretty relentless. The T-Rex then still gets up. It's definitely like, you can imagine a drunk person that just doesn't, that's been punched 4 times, that just doesn't want to give in and still wants more. The T-Rex gets up and battles on. It gets a few pushes and shoves in and causes the Giganotosaurus to stumble a few times. But the whole way through this fight, the T-Rex still doesn't get the bite it needs around the throat to kill the Giganotosaurus, or at least put in some danger. Now, let's go back to the Indominus Rex versus the T-Rex fight. Now, the T-Rex was out cold, and then when Blue came along and jumped on top of the Indominus Rex to distract it, the T-Rex absolutely threw that Indominus around, left, right and centre. That thing was getting shoved everywhere. The T-Rex grabbed it by the head, by the neck, throwing it to the floor, completely kicking its ass. Now, I think this Indominus Rex was built to be a killing machine. It was bulletproof. I don't think anything can beat a 50-foot raptor, let's be honest. And to be fair to the Indominus, it was still getting up for more until the Mosasaurus then came in and finished the job. But my point being, the T-Rex managed to grab the Indominus around the neck and it was throwing it around everywhere. And it even did that in Jurassic Park 3 with that fight scene with the Spinosaurus. It was only because of the writers wanted this brand new big carnivore to take over from the T-Rex as something different that they wrote that silly choreography in. But if you watch that actual fight scene, the Spinosaurus is getting his ass kicked as well. The T-Rex is knocking it all over the place. And, well, listen, we don't need to discuss what happened in real life. Even the Giganotosaurus, who's to know what would happen with the T-Rex and the Giganotosaurus fight in real life. But for the sake of this video, and for the sake of, obviously, the Biosyn variant, this the spikes was and the body weight was definitely an advantage for this Giganotosaurus in this case. Now, I think once we head back to the main fight at the end of Dominion, we see the Therizinosaurus being a distraction for the Giga. So it now has both the T-Rex and the Therizino to try and deal with. Now, notice that when the Therizinosaurus got a few slashes in and the Giga then looked at the Therizinosaurus as a new threat, the T-Rex was able to take its chance. It gets the Giga around the neck and uses its body weight to drive forward. Now, the death scene is very, very cheesy. Not really my cup of tea. I would have done it completely different. I would have got the buck and the doe to return for this epic finale, but that's neither here nor there. Let's go back to this. You've got the spikes where the Therizino actually kills the Giganotosaurus at the end. But I think if you look at the T-Rex's actually killing blow, it bites it round the neck and crunches onto the Therizino to obviously the impalement obviously is what kills the Giganotosaurus in the end. So, long story short, basically, the Giganotosaurus's brilliant fighting stance doesn't allow the T-Rex to get anywhere near its neck. If it did, the T-Rex would have had the ability to throw it around, probably cause a death sort of bite to the neck to basically kill its airways. How you'd imagine a lion biting the jugular and throwing it to the floor, exactly the way that it dealt with the Indominus Rex in Jurassic World. And but because of this, the Giganotosaurus used its body weight, used its spikes, used its bite force as well to get the better of the T-Rex, and that's how it came out on top. What are your thoughts of these fight scenes? How did you find the Giganotosaurus in Jurassic World Dominion? Did you like the design? Did you like the characterization? And how did you like the fight scene? I look forward to seeing your comments down below. Only one thing left to say. Life will find a way. Bye bye.